Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from USA and Australia. It's a joint venture, English language, released in the year 2024, directed by Cameron and Colin Cairns, and this film is called Late Night with the Devil. So Late Night with the Devil is in 1977. We have a very popular TV show called Night Owls that is hosted by someone who's had a lot of trouble in his past, and his ratings are going through the roof, but unfortunately as the years progress his ratings are starting to go down. So he's desperate for that really hit show to really put him back on the map. So he is going to tell everyone that he's going to communicate with the devil, that he has some guests on his show that are actually going to prove of the devil existence once and for all. So he hopes that this is going to really put him out there, but unfortunately as the evening transpires things go from bad to worse. So whether or not he can get those ratings is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Late Night with the Devil. This and Longlegs were two of the most anticipated horror films of 2024. I had heard so much about Late Night with the Devil for so long, a lot of people absolutely loved it, and so that with Longlegs were two films that I was hoping were going to blow me away. Longlegs was very good. It wasn't the movie that I was hyped up to be, but I still felt as though that was definitely rewarding, and I'm glad I actually went out and watched that film. So that's a movie that I highly recommend. I was hoping that would be the same with Late Night with the Devil. You have to be very skeptical on outside influence. When a lot of people absolutely hate a film, or the majority absolutely love a film, you go in there with a lot of hesitation, you go in there with a lot of skepticism, but you also have a lot of excitement. It's very hard to shake off that outside influence. And so Late Night with the Devil is definitely one that is right up there as far as Longlegs is concerned, with all the hype, all the attention that it's got. So when it finally came out here in Australia, I thought I'd definitely have to check it out. What was I going to get? I really like Cameron and Colin Cairns. They're Australian directors, and I definitely feel as though they've got a lot of talent. So when I saw the trailer, I thought this looked like a TV talk show host kind of horror film. I kind of knew what I was getting myself in for, and I thought as though if this was done well, it could have been absolutely fantastic. There's a Latin American horror film called The History of the Occult that I thought was absolutely phenomenal. I really liked that film. That was actually very creepy, and it was very thought-provoking as well. And so I was hoping that Late Night with the Devil was going to be better than History of the Occult, and that was going to be saying something, because I really like that film that I just previously mentioned. So going in there with a lot of excitement but a little bit of hesitation and skepticism, I was hoping that Late Night with the Devil would be another movie that would blow me away, or at the very least be a Longlegs kind of film and just make it a satisfying experience. But unfortunately, if I'm being brutally honest, I have to say that Late Night with the Devil is definitely one of the biggest disappointments of 2024. Now I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying that. A lot of people love this film, each to their own, but you guys know for my channel I'm always going to be brutally honest. And if I'm brutally honest, I felt as though this was a complete missed opportunity, because this is a film that was victim to the viewers' expectations, which is something I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about Late Night with the Devil, I thought as though it looked pretty good. It had an authentic sort of 1977 sort of feel. I really liked the idea of showbiz and, selling yourself to the devil, selling your soul to the devil in order to make that fame and that popularity. And that's not something that just applies to talk show hosts, it also applies to YouTube especially, or social media. If you're a content creator, you go to more and more extreme lengths to get viewers to watch your videos, and so that's something that, how far are you prepared to go in order to get that fame, and at what cost? And so I thought that was always a very thought-provoking sort of idea to a horror film especially, and Late Night with the Devil, that is the most thought-provoking aspect of this film, which is something that I was expecting, and I actually liked the way it played on that for the first half of this movie. I thought David Dastmalchian, he had a reasonable performance as the main character. There's not a lot to these characters. As I said, it's a very hollow feeling that you get because it is showbiz, but the very slight sort of character development that you get, I still thought as though it didn't require a great performance, but it was a fairly steady performance. Everyone involved does a fairly steady job. The production levels are there. I thought as though some of the special effects were actually quite cool to look at, and there were some moments that I thought were fairly tense, and so that was all very good. But unfortunately, this is where the positives stop, and this is where the negatives start. As I said, this is a movie that is victim to the viewer's expectations, and the viewer's expectation is to be told everything by the end of the film, have their hands held and not having to use their brain. And I don't know why viewers do this. I don't know why they don't like open-ended films, movies that make you draw your own conclusions. They have to be told, they have to be spelt out, and this is what ruins this film. I thought as though the first half of the movie there's a lot of ambiguity, there's a lot of skepticism, and the movie is about skepticism and people who will refuse to believe believe something no matter how much evidence is thrown at them. But I felt as though that was going for something really good, but then the second half starts, and this is where it just derails itself, because, as I said, a victim to the viewer's expectations. This is a film that eliminates all the ambiguity to a point where it becomes very predictable, and it does become a standard sort of Hollywood horror film. Although it's not a mega budget horror film, it is a horror film that has appealed to the masses, and I can understand why, because it has that sense of closure. And if you don't have that closure, which is something that the Latin American horror film History of the Occult did very well, and a lot of foreign horror films do very well, they leave it up to your interpretation. Basically, subject to opinion is always better because it feels as though you don't have that closure, you don't have that sense of safety, whereas in this film, I thought as though it would have been much better if it stick to the ambiguity that the first half had. There were moments that I thought could have tweaked itself and it would have been so much better, but the movie doesn't have confidence in the viewer being able to use their own head. And it's like the directors have seen the reactions to movies that force you to use your head, and they're a little bit too afraid to actually go down that route because they want to make everyone happy. And so when they're holding your hand, I just felt as though it dumbed it down to a point where I knew how this movie was going to end. And so that, to me, was the biggest criticism. The whole film doesn't really have any elevation to it. I felt as though it was going around and around in circles and not much was going on. There was no suspense. There were some pretty creepy moments. I thought as though the young girl in the film was actually quite decent, and there were moments that I thought, alright, well, that was actually quite creepy. But the film just stays at creepy. It doesn't scare you. It just doesn't feel as though it's creeping you out like History of the Occult did. And so the movie doesn't really go for that sense of anticipation. The movie has to go for the result, and the result I thought was actually quite mediocre, and so that was something that I didn't like. I thought the ending, the effects looked pretty decent, but I thought as that was ridiculous. It just got to a point where I thought, okay, it's outstayed its welcome, it's time to leave. I've just checked out, and I checked out well before the end, and that's very, very disappointing to say, because I wanted to love the film, but at the end of it I actually hated it. So I know that's a very unpopular opinion. You know, if you are offended by that, then I'm not going to apologise, because it's what I feel, and this, you guys know that I'll review films 100% honestly and with brutal honesty if needed, because I don't review films based on what others think. I review films based on what I think, and I thought as though Late Night with the Devil was very, very ordinary. So the whole film, as I said, just doesn't really go anywhere. It does beg questions, and those questions are answered to the point where, as I said, it's holding your hand and it's letting you know everything and spelling everything out in a very dumbed down way. So if you like the sort of talk show host, showbiz, sell your soul to the devil style of film, then I would highly recommend you check out History of the Occult. I thought that was a much better film that doesn't get anywhere near the attention that Late Night with the Devil did. I just feel as though this movie was a victim to overhype. This is not like Longlegs. I thought Longlegs didn't live up to the hype, but at least it was a very satisfying film, whereas the satisfaction in this movie was not non-existent. I thought as though this was a very ordinary film. David Dastmalchian has a high praise for his performance in this movie, but again, I don't share that love for that performance, because I thought as though it was fairly standard, and the whole film just has that standard feel to it. So I was expecting so much more, but what I got was a film that let me down. I'm only going to give Late Night with the Devil 2 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.